Hey guys, happy Sunday. One thing I've been majorly neglecting is stretching because it's really easy to do the workout, work really hard, and then go back to my laptop and go to work or pull out the vacuum, which you can't see because of the sun, but it's sitting over there and I know I have to do it. So I'm going to focus on stretching today and give you guys some suggestions. Some of my favorite stretches, especially for people who run and bike and do a lot of back and forth movement. Your hips get really tight and your hip flexors get really tight. And tight hip flexors can cause a series of other injuries. So one thing leads to another. The last thing you want on top of all this chaos is to be injured. Not a good thing. So simple stretches. Everyone knows the whole straight legs, getting your hamstrings. Here's a couple different ways to get into different parts of your hamstrings as well as your hips. First, you can crisscross one leg over the top, really flexing your feet, lengthening between the back of your legs, and reach up first, pushing your butt, your tailbone, your sits bones right there, down into the ground and lengthening with a flat back. If you can only go this far, that's perfectly fine. You can stay here breathing. On the inhales, you lengthen. On the exhales, you sink deeper, and then you can release after a few deep breaths right there. You're gonna feel this a little bit differently. It's really gonna stretch in the back of your knees and legs and into your hamstrings and your calves, and then you're gonna switch sides. You wanna hold stretches for at least a minute. In a lot of classes, we are on borrowed time, so we typically cut that in half or even a quarter. So you want to make sure you're holding these for about a minute. You can set a timer, you can go through a song, and every time they hit the chorus, switch it up, something like that. So that was one stretch. Another great stretch, you can take a straddle or take your leg out to the side, but then bring the other one to the inner part of your thigh or your calf. So you're making a little bit of a triangle. So you're not direct, you're out to an angle. You're gonna lift up, twist and square the hips and come down. Pushing your hips down, you're gonna feel this in your lower back and hips. You can do the exact same thing, but instead of squaring, you can reach up and then over, lengthening, pushing this hip down. So it's gonna get in a different part of your hip, less focused on the leg, more on the back and hip, reaching out to that side. You can do that on both sides. Similar stretch is the one where we stay hips square to the front, bringing that foot to the inside, reaching up and lifting straight forward. Again, that's going to get a little bit differently into your hips. Slight variation, you take both hands to one side, and that's going to help you lengthen and reach out to that side. Tiny adjustments make a big difference, especially in stretching. And don't be afraid to move around. It doesn't have to be a static stretch. You don't have to sit and hold the same position the entire time. So those are a few good ones for your hips. I'll have some more tomorrow for your hips, but we'll move on to one other body part, your quads. So I'm gonna give you a few options for this as well. One that I really like is if you're kneeling right here, you're opening your hip flexor, and then you can reach back and pull inward. Sitting up taller is going to be easier in terms of range of motion, but harder for balance. Coming down requires a little more flexibility, but less balance. So it's a catch-22, you gotta pick one or the other. You wanna try to keep your hips square. So don't let your hips open up wide, you keep them square. Imagine those headlights on your hips. That's going to help you be a little more true to this stretch. You can do the exact same thing, standing and balancing, trying to keep that parallel position. Close to your knees are together and close to the heel is to your butt. The more intense this stretch is going to be. If that's still not enough for you, you can do the stretch laying down, tucking the heel under close to your butt, and laying down either all or part of the way. If you rather do both at the same time and you feel safe doing that with your knees, you can do both at the same time, or you can even take them underneath of your butt the whole way and go straight back, or kind of go right here. That's really gonna pull on the front of your knees, so be very careful if you haven't done that one before. But that's a good stretch, especially if you're getting some weird tension at the top of your knees. One last way to do some of those stretches is very complicated, very tricky, but for those of you in yoga, it might not be. You can do the same stretch while in pigeon. Pigeon, you take your shin parallel, your back leg as straight as possible. If you can't rest on the floor with both bottom legs, you can put a towel underneath the side of your glutes. So if I turn to the side here, if I'm not fully stretched, I have a whole lot of space right here. You can put a towel underneath to bring you closer to the floor. Keeping this shin parallel, you can tuck that back foot under. Tucking that back foot under, again, very difficult. Reaching back, very tricky one. You can see my hip is popping up. I'm not totally stretched, and it's not pretty. But remember, your stretches don't have to be pretty. They just have to be effective. Ta-da! So, have a very happy Sunday. I'm working on some other videos for you. Pump was underway, didn't go so well. That's a tricky one because of the music, the choreography, a whole lot of different elements, and of course copyrights, which I ran into the other day because of using the radio in the background. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for understanding that I'm very amateur and I'm just doing this for you guys and a little for my own sanity. You can only talk to yourself so much, and yeah, that's about it. But take care, stay active. Remember to be grateful for what we do have, and we'll get through this together. All right, I love you guys. Miss you.